Okay, good morning. So we're continuing Siman Kuf Ayin Tes Halacha Base. Interesting halachas. This is something we actually mentioned. We spoke about after Shir yesterday, or the end of Shir. Misha Soimech al Shulchan Acherim. So if you're a person who's a guest in somebody's home, Afilu Omar Havlan Nevarech, even if he says this individual says Havlan Nevarech, Lo Yavi Hesachadach Hatzashiyem Balabayis. It's not considered the Hesach Hadas until the Balabayas says it. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sifkat Yud. If the Balabayas brings more food, then the guest is going to eat more food with him. So in a way, the guest is not really in control of when he stops eating or not stops eating, because the Balabayas is going to bring more food, and therefore the Balabayas is sort of deciding when we're going to bench and things like that. V'im, however, b'shas hamirosa hesiach daita b'birur she'af she'yochel v'yishte balabayis lo yochel v'yishte. If, of course, the guest says, look, they may bring more food, but I'm done, I've had enough, and even if they bring more food, I'm not going to eat anymore. V'nimlach achkach tzarich levarich, and then he changes his mind. Oh, this particular dish looks very good, I'll have some of this. Then he needs to make a new bracha. Like we said previously. And certainly if he washes my machronim, it will be effective. Like we said yesterday, once the balabayas says Havlon Nevorich or Rabbi Nevorich or something like that, then that impacts everyone. All the guests are not allowed to eat more without a bracha. Again, like we said before, dafka, if all the guests are maskim to the words of the balabayas, but if the Orach has in his mind decided to continue eating or drinking, Rashai, he's allowed to do that. Even if the balabayas says hav nevarech. V'toiv sheyigal lifnei hamasubin, it's good for the balabayas to sort of to explain to the guests shelo helo hesach hadas shelo yachshavu kanimlach. Sorry, not the balabayas. It's good for the guests to say that they shouldn't think that he's violating halacha. In other words, when the balabayas says Rabbi Nevorich or let's bench or havla nevorich, then people have got to stop eating. They can't continue eating. If, however, an individual, when they make the original bracha, they say, look, I've decided in my own mind I'm not eating anymore, then he's subject to his own decisions, not what the Balabaya says. If, for example, let's say the guest is drinking his lemon tea, and he says, look, I know the guy's going to say, let's bench in a second, but I want to finish my lemon tea. So if he has in mind that I'm planning to finish my lemon tea, so then he's not going to be sort of stopped short by the balabayas. But it's good to tell everybody, it says the Mishnah Berurah, from sort of Marasayim purposes, just say, by the way, I know you said Rabbi Nevorich, and really I've got to stop eating because of it, but just you should know that I had in mind that I was going to continue even though you said that. So, not an easy thing to say at somebody else's table, but anyway. Okay, halacha gimel. Im loy ama havlan nevarich, if he did not say havlan nevarich, v'gam loy nosel yadov, and also he didn't wash netilas yadayim, mishenotzel hakos, when he has taken the kos for benching nevarich havi hesach hadas. So the normal sort of triggers, if you like, that you've got to stop eating, and if you want to make have new food, you've got to make a new bracha. Then it's normally when you say havlan nevarich, or if you've washed my machronim, and now we're being told also taking the kos for benching, that is considered the hesach hadas. That's like a demonstration that you finished eating. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Kotan Yud Beis, va'odif mehavlan nevarich. In a way, taking the kos is actually more clear than just saying Rabbi Nevorich. To kiven shenot la kos b'yada, because once you've taken the kos, afilu b'sicha osel hafsik. Not only is it a demonstration that you've stopped eating, you shouldn't really speak after that, because it'll come b'simah kuf pe gimel sivov. Have hesach hadas v'dina kenetilas yadayim, and it's like you've washed netilas yadayim. When you take the kos for benching, it's got the same din as if you've washed netilas yadayim, ulafize, and therefore l'das mechabel el b'sif aleph also shuv bein b'achil bein b'shtiyah l'kul alma. You can therefore no longer eat or drink. According to mechabel v'ayin el siman cotton sif cotton base b'mishnah berurah mashe kosavnu le'inyan and netilas yadayim. Okay, good. Dalet. Kashe adam nichnas lebeis chaverei. A guy walks into someone's house. V'yesham chaburos harbe, and there are different groups who are eating there. I'm picturing like a Shalom Zocha. Imagine you go into a person's house, Shalom Zocha, and it's a large house, and there's lots of sort of groups of people eating in different locations. So imagine that sort of scenario. So and he's going to different sort of groups, circles, and each one are sort of giving him saying, "Hi, come have a l'chaim, have a glass of wine." On each one, you to make a ber pragofen, ki b'chol pam hu nimlach, because each time I had a glass of wine in the first one, that's it, that's all I was planning on having. You then go to another sort of circle of groups, and someone says to you, you didn't have that in mind when you were in the first group. So therefore, each time it's nimlach, you've made a new decision to have something new, and therefore it would require a new bracha. Says the Mishnah Berurah Yudalad, Kshe Adam Nichnas, Hainu Shelo Korolios Nikba Imoim Lishtos Kechol HaMesubin. It's not, you haven't been sort of called to be like a regular guest, but you're just sort of hopping from one little circle to another. Harbe, for who adin b'chabura achas, and not only that, even if it's one chabura shekol echod moishit loy kais, where each person is giving you a kais, dal kol kais for kais have a nimlach chudulakame. It's pretty much you've sort of been invited on every kais, and you've just changed your mind. I'll decide, okay, yeah, why not? I'll have a glass of wine. And then somebody else offers it you, well, you didn't have that in mind before, so therefore you need to make a new bracha. In footnote 16, it's lav dafka wine. He says, lav dafka kashem mashitim lo kais, elu adin imagishim lo mini machel. You know, they could be offering you a piece of cake or nash or whatever it is. Elu uchad the milsa, it's just, this is what normally they offer you a l'chaim. Sifkot and Tes Zayin, Nimlach, De'enu Adem Yoshit lo kaisacha, because you don't know, when you go to the second group, you didn't know that they were going to offer you a glass of wine, and therefore it's like nimlach, and therefore it would require a new bracha. So you could still have the l'chaim glass from the first group in your hand, and then you go to the second group, and they say, "Come have a l'chaim." Then even though you still need to make a new bracha. Because when you made the first bracha, your das was not to have a second glass with a different group. Because they didn't know that they were going to proffer you a glass of wine or a l'chaim. This is only if it's stam. You just go in and this is what's happening. You're hopping from one group to another. Aval. Im b'shas birchoso hayadaito sheta lehabrocha al kol ma sheyidnu. If when you went into the home you had in mind, I'm making a shahakol, and whatever comes my way, this will cover for the chaims. I'm making a ber pragofen, or whatever, and this will cover any subsequent shahakol, ber pragofen, mezonos, or whatever. Then ein tzarich levarich al kol kos. You don't need to make a new bracha on each time. Af shelo hayodeh in ozim yitnu. Even if you didn't know they was going to give it to you, yeah, that would work. Mikol malkum mahani daita lezeh, that would help. In a situation where the minig is they'd give you lots of kosas, if the way of this place is that they would give you lots of kosas, then that's the assumption, that's what you had in mind, and therefore the one bracha would count for many glasses. It's much better, good practice. Therefore, when let's say you go into a shalom zocha and you have a l'chaim, you say, right, this shahakal, well, you think to yourself, this shahakal will cover any other shahakals that I have. That's just good practice. Okay, hey, let's just finish off. Hey and Vav, Sif Hey, Hakruim bebeis bal habayis. Those people who are guests in someone's home, le'echol minei peiros, to have some fruit, or mevi'in lohem bezeh chazeh, and they bring sort of one dish after another. Einom tzrichim levorech el al rishon. There it's sort of the opposite of the previous case. There you only have to make one bracha, and not on every subsequent plate that is brought to you. So what's that about? Says the Mishnah Berurah Yisif Kotan Yud Zayin Hakruim. The kiven dehem shem kruim, since you sort of have been invited, even though you make a bracha at the beginning stam, you're a guest in this person's house, and therefore your understanding is that whatever comes your way, you'll partake of. Because you know the balabais is going to bring you lots of different food, and therefore you make the one bracha, and that would cover subsequent foods of the same type. And it's different to the previous case. There, you didn't know that they were going to bring you any further food. And therefore, when you made the bracha, it was only on that which was immediately in front of you at that time. And even in the case where you were a guest and you just have in mind whatever the person brings me, I'll eat, and you didn't know it was coming, and you thought that was it. Since you are toilet to the das of the balabais, so in this situation where you're a guest and they're just bringing you more and more food, therefore one bracha will count for all subsequent plates of food of the same type that they're going to bring you. Okay, good. Just have a look at 17. Important. If you just happen to go in there, Kosu Birchas Abayis and also Moshe and Igros Moshe, she'ein loy meshehois daitzim sheyovi balabayis oid, shari noisin loim peres rak mitzad derech eretz. In some situations, you've got kol lefi hamokim vazman. It could be that that's all they're going to give you, and therefore that's nimlach, and therefore you might have to make a new bracha for a subsequent dish. Okay, let's just finish off. Sivov. Ochal kol meichel v'loy ochal melach. Now this is not so nogeh nowadays, but in the good old days you would have salt at the end of the meal, and therefore ochal kol meichel v'loy ochal melach. You had your food and you didn't finish off with having some salt. Or shasa kol mashke v'loy shasa mayim, and you didn't drink water at the end. By yoim yidag mipnei reach haper. If it's in the daytime, you should be worried about reach haper, like a bad breath. Or v'lailon, if it's nighttime, it's mipnei ruach haper or mipnei askara, which perishes cholik is some sort of inability to breathe, some choking or not being able to breathe properly. Now, when they bring melach at the end of the meal, like there was their practice in those days, lo yochel begudel. What is a gudel? So a very useful Mishnah Berurah, very useful Ramah. Gudel hu etzba hagas. That's the thick finger, i.e. the thumb. Don't eat it with the thumb. Etzba, says the next one, hu kroiv lagas. That's the next finger. So this is this finger over here. Amo is the Orach, that's the middle finger, the long finger. Kamitza is the one next to it, who's Samach Lakotan. Zeres Suakotan. So we've got the names of all the fingers. Very useful to know. Dekasha Likbar Bonim. Rachman Lisan, a person eats melach with his gudel, with his thing. He sort of dips it into the salt and he eats it. Rachman Lisan, that's considered dangerous. One has to, for the life of your children, might bury the children. V'lo bezeres, nor one should eat it with the zeres, which is the little finger. To koshel anias, that's bad for poverty. V'lo be'etzba, nor in the etzba. Now the etzba is the one next to the gas, which is this finger. One shouldn't eat it with the etzba, the one next to the thumb. To koshel shin dalet, that's bad for shin dalet. What is shin dalet? If you take a look at the bottom, in my edition it's at the very, very bottom. Kacha girsa lefanenu v'hainu l'shfichas tomim, murder. That's what the Chaim says. Ach lefnei kama min ha'achronim hoisa girsa lamed shin reish, not shin dalet, lamed shin reish, or mehem shepitruhu l'shchin ra, some sort of bad skin, boiled or something like that. That's Elirab b'shein the malbushe yontov, etc., etc. Ulam b'shiboli haleket nitfas l'shem ra. You'll get a bad name. Shekein ra b'shiboli haleket l'chein kos v'alavush. Okay. Ela ba'amo b'kmitza. Rather, you should use the amma or the kmitza. So the amma is the middle finger, the longer finger, and the kmitza is the one next to it, which is the one between the middle finger, the long finger, and the zeres. V'ayin le'el siman kufayin lama ein anu noagim b'achilas melach u'shtias mayim. Nowadays we're not noeg to eat salt or drink water at the end of the meal. Why not? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Kotin Yudches, Hainu mishum dechol ha'achilas shelanu ma'ura b'tchila b'melach. Because all of our foods nowadays has salt in it. V'chein kol ha'mashke shelanu, all our drinks, whatever you drink, Coke, orange juice, wine, kasheichel meidvash v'dameh, etc. Ma'ura v'mayim, they've got water in it. V'alkein ein lahak b'dal zeh, don't worry about this. Belav hochi ein lahak b'dal, you shouldn't worry about it in our times. So idn nishtanu ha'toim. And anyway, there's nishtanu ha'teva, so it's not really a concern. The character, the physical character of a person has changed over the time, since the times of Chazal. So in any event, we shouldn't be worried about this. Okay, say that, let's do with that.